Washington is focused on media mergers lately. Trump allies reached a deal to buy the whole Warner Brothers empire, including CNN, stoking questions about the future of everything from news to American film culture, while the Oscars had jokes about an industry in decline and whether people even still really go to theaters anymore. As if they're like the bygone era of vinyl records. Of course, that would assume that vinyl records are over. And in fact, music fans are so passionate now, even though they can get music basically for free, many are buying their favorite artists' old school vinyl records, leading to a sales surge that hit $1 billion. And data shows Taylor Swift, The Weeknd, and Billie Eilish are some of the most streamed artists now. And while streaming might have its drawbacks, it's reviving concerts for those big acts and broadening people's exposure to more global music. U.S. record stores typically focus on American music. For years, English language music has dominated pop charts. But now these streamers like Spotify make it easy to listen to the world. And did you know this? The share of music in languages besides English has doubled among the top songs compared to about 5 years ago, now including Korean and Portuguese hits. And that is before you even get into Spanish, where Bad Bunny has topped U.S. and global charts with his reggaeton songs. The Super Bowl performance was a ratings hit, even as attacks and MAGA meltdowns didn't appear to resonate with most viewers. In fact, the right-wing performative snowflake outbursts basically rang pretty hollow that weekend and this week, after Trump diplomat Marco Rubio went full bunny in a recent address. Consider the contrast.
Nobody understood a thing. We needed subtitles for our own Super Bowl.
Not one word of English. Yeah. Not one word of English. One word.
Que están aquí hoy estos países. Primero, el presidente ha hecho esta región una prioridad en su administración. Hay muchos presidentes que han dicho que lo van a hacer.
But to get up there and perform the whole show in Spanish is a middle finger to the rest of America.
Y se lo agradecemos. Y muy agradecido a los 12 países que están aquí hoy. Estos son países que no solamente son aliados, son amigos.
For MAGA, apparently it's okay when they do it. Or as Benito or Marco might say, está bien cuando ellos lo hacen. Hope nobody's upset. These shifts in music and culture are broader than partisan spats and may offer a clue for where things are headed even after we get through maybe this divisive time. With that in mind, I want to bring in a guest making his Beat debut. Neil Shaw is a longtime music reporter, many years at the Wall Street Journal. He's now working on a book about the 2010 hip-hop boom. Working title, All of the Lights, coming out next year. Welcome.
Nice to see you, Ari.
Great to have you. How about that? Music and lyrics in other languages are apparently popular.
Yeah, the mini backlash to Bad Bunny in the Super Bowl is just, and President Trump's comments about all that is just out of touch with the reality of music, pop music today. I mean, in the last half decade, Bad Bunny has been Spotify's #1 artist for much, if not all of that time.
And we hear so much about the downside of streaming or things changing. It's fascinating that American and other consumers are finding that when offered more choice, they like other songs in other places, sometimes with lyrics they don't know.
Yeah, lots of consumers, many artists have major problems with Spotify. I'm not saying that there aren't in the realm of artist compensation, but one thing that's been fascinating that we've seen is that streaming has allowed many of these artists, these global artists, to kind of crash through the traditional gatekeepers in the American music industry, such that it's, Latin music, Bad Bunny, K-pop, the K-pop Demon Hunters phenomenon, BTS, which has an album coming out on Friday, Afro beats. A lot of these sounds are getting a bigger purchase on the zeitgeist because streaming opened doors wider than maybe the traditional industry would have.
I want to show some of what we've seen both at the Oscars and the Grammys, where we're in this corporate merger environment I mentioned. Yeah. The big companies and platforms don't really want to get that political. And yet, we're in this moment. Take a look.
That is a Grammy that every artist wants, almost as much as Trump wants Greenland, which makes sense, because Epstein's island is gone.
I should warn you, tonight could get political, okay? And if that makes you uncomfortable, there's an alternate Oscars being hosted by Kid Rock.
Mr. Nobody Against Putin is about how you lose your country. You lose it through countless small little acts of complicity.
Another illegal war created by Trump and Netanyahu with another lie.
Eyes out.
You've covered music for decades. Is it a more political time as people respond? Or do you identify with the kind of corporatized, everyone's a brand critique that we're nowhere near the 70s or the 60s for artistic leadership?
I think as a music fan and as a music expert, I think I'm disappointed in how quiet the voices are. Our country is going through pretty tenuous times right now. And I think what's louder is the silence of so many artists that could be a little bit more politically active. I mean, it's encouraging to see, for example, Bad Bunny talk about ICE at the Grammy. So I'm not saying that there aren't voices out there. I just think that they could be a lot louder.
You've also written for the Journal looking at really the business side of this, and it's connected, what happens in business and how we get culture, right? I mean, that's why people care a lot about if MAGA folks are running Warner Brothers or CNN or what's happening in music. And so when you look at the concert side, though, you wrote about how music superstars are, you said, the new one percenters. A very different dynamic. That 60% of the concert ticket revenue now goes to the top 1%. That was a few years back in the concert. That was before Taylor, Beyonce, and all this.
That was before the Eras Tour.
The Eras Tour, right. So what's happening there, and how does that matter for our culture?
Well, basically, the same income inequality that's rampant throughout different parts of the U.S. economy is really apparent in the concert industry, where a lot of the money essentially is going to like the highest tier of artists, the Taylor Swifts of the world, the Bad Bunnies of the world, the Kendrick Lamars, and less of it is going to the middle of the kind of the middle, so-called middle class of artists. It's a funny phenomenon because in the streaming era, the revenues of the biggest artists are getting turbocharged, and also new channels are opening up for the smallest artists as well, both in streaming and in the live industry. Where things get difficult is in the middle, where in the CD regime and back in the 90s, it might have been a little easier for people to make a living with their concerts and with their albums. It's a little harder now, and the 1%ification of live music doesn't help.
Music writer and author Neil Shaw, thanks for being here.
Thanks.